Okay, we are continuing in Hilchos Talmud Torah, Perek Vav. The topic has been disrespecting the elders. So we talked about the great travesty that was brought upon the Jewish people, the Churban Yerushalayim, says the Rambam in Halacha Yud Aleph, was because of dishonoring and mocking Talmidei Chachamim. That's the last thing we learned. So now the Rambam, we're going to talk tonight about the concept, what we call nidui. Nidui is another word for putting someone in cherem. This is a long lost art that we don't really do today. For the most part, we hear about it a lot with like agunot, for example, where we try to persuade the men to give a get, and if not, we put their name in the Jewish press on page 4, and we hope for the best. But it's not really taken seriously enough as it used to be. We're going to see exactly how it used to be. So, right? Even though we learned that if you disgrace a Talmud Chacham, you lose your chelik on Olam Haba. So that's your punishment in the next world. But what do we do for you in this world? You think you get off scot-free? So the answer is absolutely not. What we do is you are in nidui, which is cherem. Okay, you are excommunicated. It's not a good thing. Nidui actually comes from the word nida, which is menuda, which means separated, right? Like navanad tihiyeva aretz, right? The klala by Kayin is someone who is apart from people. I think that's where the shoresh technically comes from. Wow, this is some penalty. So we give him nidui, we give him cherem, or the Bezdin does, and not only that, he's got to pay a violation. So he loses his chelik in Olam Haba, he gets put in cherem, and we take a penalty, we make him pay litra zahav, a liter's worth of gold. Oh my God, in today's day and age, right, with the gold on the COMEX at what, $4,700 an ounce, whatever gold is up to, a troy ounce, so that is a lot of money. Okay, and the Chacham who was disgraced is the proud owner of this. We have this concept of, if you remember in Chulin, I think somewhere in the Pays, like Pei Vav, we're going to get to it in a few months also, is if you chap a mitzvah from someone. I think this topic over there is by Kisui Hadam. So we punish you, I think, Yud Zehuvim, something like that, 10 gold coins, if I steal a mitzvah from someone, right? So there the Gemara gives an example of the penalty is paid in gold. So here also, a penalty is paid in gold. And that's not a good thing, especially with the gold prices today. Okay, so continuing on. Wow. So if you even disgrace a Talmud Chacham, even after he dies, after that Talmud Chacham is dead, nevertheless, Bezdin puts you in cherem. So, okay, so when do you come out of cherem? Right? It's not like you could ask the Chacham for forgiveness because he's gone, he's dead. So what do? You have to do tshuva. And once you do tshuva, you are out of the penalty box. If the Chacham is living, then you have to go and you have to basically beg this guy, say, listen, I embarrassed you. Please, let me be back let me be out of cherem. Can a Chacham himself give a self-imposed Cherem on someone who comes to his house and embarrasses him? The answer is yes. Vein tzarich lo edim v'lo hasra, and he doesn't even need a witness. Okay? Ve'ein matirin lo ad shirat as a chacham, and you're out of the penalty box when you go back to that chacham that you disgraced and beg him for forgiveness. Ve'imeis chacham, if that chacham is gone, if he dies, ba'in shlosho matirin lo. Right? It's discussed how you could go to someone's grave and ask him. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. I just remember a Gemara there somewhere in Moed Katan, I think, discussed that. Yeah, Moed Katan is one of those Gemaras that talks a lot about someone in Cherem. In the second perek that has to do with uh, right before the Hilchas of Avelus. It compares an Avel has certain laws about him, a Mitzorah, and someone in Cherem. There's a lot of common denominators between those three types of people. Okay, like Tezvav, Tezayin, something like that, and Moed Katan, if you want to take a look. All right, so if this person dies, if the Chacham dies, you need three people. It's like Heter Nedarim, almost, right? You got to convene a triumvirate of people. Wow. If this Chacham elects to forgive him, okay, then that's it. Then you're out. Right? And that's it. He's out of the penalty box. Number Yud Gimel, Halacha Yud Gimel. Harav shenida lechvodo kol talmid chayim nidoy keminuda. What about a teacher, a rebbe, that places one of his students under cherem? Okay, because he was behaving badly. So the law is that the rest of the kids, the rest of the students, have to abide and leave this person in cherem, meaning he's excluded from playing baseball with them, right? You can't share your homework with him. That's it. He's out. He's out of the clubs. Aval Talmud shenida lechvodo, excuse me, Aval Talmud shenida lechvod atzmo, if a Talmud put a cherem on someone else because of the Rav's honor, right? I'm sitting next to someone and that person, right, badmouthed the Rebbe. And I'm like, oh boy, how could you do that? You're in cherem, right? If you did it for the honor of the Rebbe, so the question is, does the Rebbe have to go along with that cherem? Rambam says no. Ein harav chayv linagbo nidur. You don't have to. The Rav does not have to play along and consider him in cherem. Aval kol ha'am chayav and linagbo nidur. But the rest of the people are obligated to leave that student in cherem. V'chen menuda lanasi menuda l'chol Yisrael. Right? The Rambam takes us from a Gemara Moed Katan, which says that basically that if you are placed under cherem because you disrespected the nasi, okay, the nasi of the land of Israel, then you are considered in cherem. Everyone has to abide by it. It's called menuda lanasi, menuda l'chol Yisrael. All the Jewish people are obligated to go along with this cherem. But what if the Jews placed him in cherem for doing something wrong? The nasi could still talk to him, meaning the nasi is on a higher level or a different level, and the nasi doesn't have to go along with what the other people elected to do. Okay, that's the bottom line. And menudo le'ira cheres. If he's put in cherem in this city, okay, because he did something wrong in this city, the other cities also have to go along. So if he skips town and goes somewhere else, they're like, oh, we heard about you that you're in cherem and you're stuck. So if you live in city A and you try to escape to city B, so city B has the cherem on you. But menudal ira cheres ain't a menudal ira. But if I'm visiting city B and I'm putting cherem there for doing something bad while I'm on vacation, and I go back to city A where I originally reside, Okay, that original city does not have to keep along with a cherem. Okay, so you may say to yourself at this point, okay, cherem sounds like a really bad thing, right? You're excluded from the community. What are some of the things that you have to do bad in order to earn a timeout and be in cherem? So we have a very, very long halacha yudalid. Okay, let's try to do most of it. Where the Rambam lists 24 violations that land you in the penalty box. So how did we start this whole cherem business? Well, we were talking about what? We were talking about disgracing Talmidei Chachamim. And it's a very, very horrible thing. You lose your Olam Haba, and even Olam Hazeh becomes very, very unpleasurable, right? You got to pay your gold, right? You get put in cherem. So that's how this whole discussion started. So that's if someone was what? If someone got in trouble by disgracing a Talmud Chacham. Aval misha niduhu al shar dvarim shachayven aleha nidui. But there are a whole list of other things that you could do also bad. And the difference is that afilu nidu katan shabi Yisrael chayiv nasi. Remember how we said before that the president's on a different level and doesn't have to abide by the cherem? That is not true when it comes to the other 24. So believe it or not, as bad as being Mavazel Talmud Chacham is, there's still a little leniency in that cherem. But if you commit 24 other violations, one of 24 other violations, then even if you are put in cherem by Yisrael, the Nasi has to abide by it. V'chol Yisrael linong bo nidu yad sheyachzor b'tshuva midavar shenidu, and everyone, right? And that's true. Everybody has the obligation to consider you in cherem. No one does any business with you. You're excluded. Ad sheyachzor b'tshuva midavar sheniduhu b'shvilo v'yatirulo. You have to do tshuva and show and prove that you are rehabilitated. Okay, v'yatirulo, and then you get the permit to carry on with life. Here we go. Al esrim va'arba dvarim enadinas adam ben isha. So first of all, it applies to women. Women are no better than men. Okay, for all you women out there. And finally, the women are equal to a man. You should love this, right? Finally, we found something where women are equal, and that is when it comes to punishment. V'eluhen hamavaze es achacham v'afilu lachar moso. Sounds familiar? That's what we've been talking about. Okay, so the first one is, as we've been saying, disgracing Talmidei Chachamim even after they die. And this list is going to be like a potpourri. It's going to be like jumping from one topic to another topic. Hamavaze shliach bezdin. If you have a shliach bezdin that comes to your house, he's a messenger. He has news to tell you about a court case. Okay, and you're mavaza him, you disgrace him. That's it. Penalty box. Hakor lechavar eved. Whoa. So this is, and by the way, a lot of these comes from Gemaras. There are a few that I don't recall come from Gemaras, but a lot of these are from Gemaras. This, if you remember the end of Kiddushin, where it talks about Yichus and about how horrible it is to call people Mamzer and Eved, and right? So if you call your friend an Eved, that's a real, real, real insult. So that's it. You're put in cherem. Misha shalchalo bezdin v'kavalo zman v'lo ba. This is what we call when they come to serve you, right? Hopefully no one here was ever sued. But if you were, you would know that you get served and someone comes to your house and they say, well, there's a subpoena for you to come to court. And if you skip town and you don't show up in court, bam, you are going to the Jewish press. If you take some mitzvos, either midoraisa, midorabanan, if you take them lightly, that's it. You are going into cherem. That's a pretty general category, broad category, if you ask me. Mishalo kibo alav es hadin. So you're in a court case and you don't like the verdict because you probably lost, and you say, I ain't paying you, go to hell. The answer is, menadino soat sheyiten. You are officially, you may have a judgment against you, but more importantly, you are in cherem. Mishiesh birshus davar hamazik. If you like to harbor boa constrictors in your house and pythons, right, and you are a danger to society, or bulldogs of the like, osulam ra'ua, or you happen to have, shaky ladders that are missing a few rungs. Basically, you have obstacles in your house that can cause people to get damaged. You're in cherem until you call the exterminator. Hamocher 8. We're up to number 8. Hamocher karka, and we're going to go a little over time. But Hamocher karka shalo la'ovet kochavim. Here's an interesting one. I live on the block, right? I live right in the heart of Borough Park, and I sell my house to a goy. And everybody on the block is Jewish, and there's one house in the middle that's owned by a non-Jew. Okay, and they're all upset. So minadino so. You put the owner, you put the seller, the one who sold the house, in cherem ad sheyikavel alav kol ones sheyavo min ha'ovet kochavim liyisrael chaver al ba'al meitzar. Until now, you sold the house already, so there's no real going back. But believe it or not, you hold the seller liable for all the risk, okay, that the guy will inevitably cause any damage. That now you could say that a Jew could also, be bad and cause damage. That's a topic for a different time. But assuming that the guy is the one that is doing the damage, so therefore, if he ends up ruining the block, the person who sold the house, who introduced this non-Jew into the block, is so that was a bad thing, right? So this is actually from a Gemara in Bava Kama, Daf Kuf Yudalid. So the Rambam didn't make this up. Believe it or not, it's a Gemara in Bava Kama. Number 9, Hameir al Yisrael ba'akar shel the kochavim. If you testify for a Jew in a non-Jewish court, right? So there's a guy that is suing a Jew, and the guy takes a Jew as a witness. Wow. And the witness comes to support the non-Jew and ends up taking money out, and the defendant in this case ends up losing because a Jew is made for the non-Jew. That's bad. Okay, here's one I don't think I understand too well. Tabach Kohen she'eno mafresh hamatanos, right? A Kohen is a butcher. Now, anytime you have meat, you have to give matnos kahuna. We're going to learn about that in Chulin in a bunch of months. So the Kohen happened to be the butcher. So he doesn't. So if he goes and he gives it to a different Kohen, or actually Tabach Kohen she'eno mafresh hamatanos, so he doesn't mafresh the matanos. Instead, he gives the meat, the whole meat, lekohen acher minadeno sawad sheyiten. I don't know. I have to get back to that. I'm not sure exactly what number 10 is. I'm sorry. I have to look that up. I'm a little unclear. Hamachal Yom Tov Sheni Shel Golio. So here's an easy one. Yom Tov Sheni, right? So you're like, in Eretz Yisrael, they don't hold second day. So in Woodmere, I won't hold the second day. That is not cool. Hamachal Yom Tov Sheni Shel Golios. Okay, that's number 11. Number 12. Osa Malacha Be'erev Pesach Acher Chatzos. Whoa, that's something we don't think about, right? The Gemara in Pesachim discusses how severe, right, it is to work after Chatzos on Pesach. Hamaskir Shem Shamayim Levatala O L'Shvua B'Divrei Havoy. Whoa, taking God's name for naught, or you swear a shvua that you didn't have to take. Hamevi Harab Lichel Hashem. Number 14. If you cause people to do Chilul Hashem. Next, 15, Hamevias Haralu de Achilas Kachim B'chutz. If I persuade people to eat karbanos outside the Beis Hamikdash. Number 16, Hamachashev Shanim V'Kovea Chadashim B'chutz La'aretz. If I decide to do Kiddush HaChodesh outside of Israel, even though the Gemara in Sanhedrin discusses that Rabbi Akiva did it, I think in jail, right, outside Eretz Yisrael, or some people did do it, okay, that's a discussion. Hamachsheles ha'iver, number 17. If I give someone a bad advice, that's a whole discussion. If I literally put a stumbling block in front of a blind man, am I over lifnei iver lo sitei michshol? That's actually a machlokas. I know the Sefer HaChinuch says no. I think some commentators say yes. Hama'akev harabim lasos mitzvah. If I prevent people from doing a mitzvah, tabach shiyatza treifa mitachas yado. Oh boy, right? If we have a Rubashkin situation where the tabach is not believed anymore, either because he did something wrong. Here he let a treifa go by. Tabach shel bat sakino. If you're following the daf, you know all about checking knives, right? If you didn't do that, hamak she'atzmo ladas. If you arouse yourself knowingly, that's a bad one. The Gemara Nida has a whole daf on that. Daf Yud Gimel, I think. Mishagiris says ishto vasa bein. Here's a one from left field. You divorce your wife and you decide to go into business with her. Right? That is not on the recommended list for all those out there. You divorce your wife, you do not want to go into business, right? Because they will be close to each other. So when they come to court to settle their divorce, that's when you slam them with cherem. So what exactly is the problem? That's a tough one, right? Okay, I guess before they get the final get, they're not allowed to live with each other. I think the Gemara in Gittin calls that a get yashan. Anyways, chacham sheshmu ra. If you heard about a very, very smart person, a Talmud chacham who's got a bad reputation, he's done some naughty things. And here's the last one: Hamenad misha enu chayiv nidui. If I put someone in cherem who didn't deserve it, that person, right, he is put into cherem. Almost like ayin tachas ayin. Okay, and that is how we end the 6th chapter. Sorry for going over time, but that was an important one.